Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. This is Simon with AvaTrade. Welcome to our weekly webinar. And as always, the special welcome to the new people. We're starting the webinar, and title pretty much says it all. What we're trying to do here is create a plan for the week. As I like to say, as some traders are saying, you plan your trade and then you trade your plan. This way, definitely no guarantees that you succeed, but at the same time, there's definitely more chances of having less chaos in your trading. All right. So, a few things about myself. My name is Simon Friedman. I'm a senior account manager with AvaTrade. My overall experience is over 23 years since I started to trade. I came to prop trading back in New York in the year 2000, about June, and I did it for about 11 years. And after that, I moved into a less stressful way of trading, to say the least. And also, I went into mentoring and educating other traders. And currently, I'm very happy that I have a great opportunity of assisting our customers. The agenda of the webinar will pretty much the same thing as we do every week. We talk about indices, stocks, commodities, forex, and prior to that, we speak a little bit about the big picture, some fundamentals. We discuss economic calendar, and that's the structure of the webinar. Risk warning, you can find a full statement at avatrade.com. What we do here is purely educational. We do not suggest trades, of course. And these are the channels I highly recommend for you to subscribe to. You have Telegram, you have Twitter, and you have a YouTube channel, which is my favorite. You have daily updates and uploads into YouTube channel. That includes the webinars as well. So it's very convenient. If you missed a webinar or it's not convenient for you time-wise, you can always go and watch the recording. And I would like to ask you to participate. Please write your feedback, your opinions, share with your friends. Definitely subscribe and click on that bell so you'll be notified of new things coming in. Okay, before we go into economic calendar, just a few things about the week we had. Friday was a super volatile day, and I don't know if you know or not, that's something they call triple witching on Wall Street. It happens third Friday every quarter, pretty much. Third Friday of the March, June, September, and December. And what's happening? It's the expiration of certain instruments, and that includes stock options, stock index futures, and stock index options. They all expire on that day. So as you could see, it creates a high volatility and tremendous moves on the market. And of course, if you are watching VIX, the volatility index, it was up on Friday about 8%. So that's something to keep in mind. Traders, I remember when I started, first time I've heard today's triple witching. I didn't really know what it was. So the traders would really warn young traders as myself that it's a lot of volatility and a lot of spikes and a lot of uh, moves on the market unexpected. So there's a lot of covering and a lot of closing positions. So that creates a lot of volatility, just for you to understand. What else happened last week? Few things that also kind of added to pressure, downside pressure of the market. That's the strike of auto employees. I'm not sure. I think it started or they're about to start, but that's kind of threatens the automakers. Also, the consumers are a little bit worried. We're getting close to October when the repayment of student loans comes in again. And also there's a threat out there for government shutdown again if they're not reaching the agreement by the 30th of September. So a lot of things that pushing the markets down, and we'll take a look at the markets when we get there. All right, so then brings us to the economic calendar. But before I go into it, I just want to explain a few things, especially for new people. Uh, is it important to follow economic calendar? It's totally up to you, but I believe logically it would be good for every trader to know that certain things are coming out, and then we'll go through it in a moment. Also here, I take out only high impact events because otherwise it would be a lot. So you can filter through it. You can find economic calendar on our web trader or the app. Also, you can use third party. This is public information. It's being posted at the same time by many providers. And it's important. You don't want to be caught up in the trade or the opposite. Some people like the volatility of the announcement and the strategies built on that, and so on. So, a few things that are coming out this week. We have the Bank of Australia meeting minutes. That's on Tuesday. We have CPI numbers for Canada coming out on that day as well. So that's Tuesday. Now, also Tuesday, the FOMC starting the meeting, and Wednesday they announced. So here it brings us to Wednesday. We have CPI numbers from UK. That's early morning. By the way, the numbers here are set up for GMT. You can customize it. You have I think the highlight of the week is the Fed's decision, and that comes on Wednesday at 6 p.m. GMT. And definitely, as of now, based on CME Fed's futures, there's almost 100% probability that they will post this time around. But for sure, everybody will be glued to either TV or radio, whatever you're following, that the press conference 30 minutes after the announcement. And of course, as usual, Powell will be drilled by questions, and that will include probably some new questions about the possible shutdown, the government, and strikes and so on, because there's a threat that this strike of automaker employees could actually affect GDP in the fourth quarter. So that comes on Wednesday. Again, the FOMC decision and the press conference. Then we have GDP numbers from New Zealand. And coming Thursday, we have interest rate decision from Swiss Bank or Bank of Switzerland. Swiss franc has been super strong lately. We discussed it many times. So let's see what happens here. And here comes the decision of Bank of England. The expectation is increased by 0.25, similar what European Central Bank did last week. Interestingly enough, after that increase, the euro went down. I guess the strength of a dollar overpowered it. So we have the interest rate decision from Bank of England. That's on Thursday. And Friday, another interest rate decision from Bank of Japan. Now, if you remember, over the weekend, last weekend, the Bank of Japan announced that they might be looking into start taking actions as the inflation is affecting. So as of now, as I mentioned every week pretty much, the Bank of Japan is the only central bank that hasn't done anything until now. They're still in a negative interest rate, minus 0.1. So the expectation is no change. But I always say Bank of Japan has a tendency of surprising us. So who knows, maybe this is the time. But until now, there's always some expectation, even though there's no increased expectation, but there's opinion of the traders, maybe this is the time. And every time they don't do it, it disappoints and yen falls further. So let's see what happens here. Definitely worth watching that decision and press conference by Bank of Japan following. Also, we have retail sales on Friday from UK. We have PMI numbers from Germany, then PMI numbers from European Union, and we have PMI from UK and also PMI from US. That's pretty much what it is. So if you just want to pull out the most important things, definitely is the Fed's decision. It's the Bank of England decision. Those are the key points, and Bank of Japan, of course, the Switzerland as well. But I think the Feds is the most important. Everybody wants to know what's next. And general market expectation is that by second half of next year, the Feds should be starting cutting the rates. So definitely these questions are going to be popping up in the press conference. So just want to show you this picture. It's a nice article. Again, it's at themarketwatch.com, and says here Powell could still hammer the U.S. stocks on Wednesday, even if the Fed's doesn't hike interest rate. So I think most of it will be having attention, or really paying attention at the press conference. So definitely it will be increasing volatility around that time. Okay, so that's pretty much the big picture and the upcoming events for the week. Let's go and start analyzing some instruments. So we start from indices, and we start with China, as we usually do. Chinese index sold again. As we know, China has a lot of issues. Real estate development in general, the economy is not doing great as well. And of course, there's a political war, let's put it this way, between China and US. If you remember last week, and there was an announcement by a Chinese government that all the state employees are banned from using the iPhone. So definitely it affected Apple. We'll take a look at the stock also when we get there. But anyway, Chinese index is selling. And as you know, I usually pull out a few instruments that are being affected. That's copper. Copper also had a little bit of a sell-off on Friday. Now, crude oil normally would be selling, but it is going higher. We'll be talking about when we get to commodities. And Australian and New Zealand dollar usually react to it. So not much reaction in Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar here. So in any event, Chinese index sold. We spoke about the US market again with the triple witching. Indices are sold heavily on the high volume. Dow Jones erased the previous day of gains. So did S&P. S&P actually almost erased the 2 days of gains. And NASDAQ as well erased 2 days of gains. And it looks like NASDAQ and S&Ps are sitting on the 50 moving average, and Dow Jones actually trading below the 50 moving average. Now, European indices had a strong day. Let's see how we open on Monday. Maybe they'll catch up on that move to the downside, or maybe the opposite. The US will be rebouncing after the triple witching, after the dust settled. But there's always a chance that Europe is going to open lower and catch up with the down move of US indices. So all the European indices were strong this past week. And let's see how they start the week on Monday. So again, if you take US indices, which is the major, they have the major influence on the global markets. In a way, it's the biggest market that is trading. Few things, let's just repeat what's affecting it. There's a strike of the auto employees. There's a fear of consumers, even though we had amazing retail sales report, but consumers could be affected the moment they have to go back to repaying the student loans. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I know exactly what it is. I spent most of my life in the States. And what happens there, that you go to college, you get good education, you pay a lot of money, and then it takes you years to pay it back. So because of COVID, it was frozen. Now they're just going back to paying it. So the money that was kind of the people were able to save and spend on other things. Now they have to resume their loan repayments. So that's a serious thing. And the third thing is the threat of shutdown of the US government by October 1st. right? So the indices are down. Let's move to individual stocks, and we start with Apple. If you remember, after the comment, or not the comment, but decision of the Chinese government, Apple sold, and the whole week the stock was pretty much didn't have any power to bounce. So that's Apple. On the positive side, something that caught my attention is AT&T. So I looked into it. There were a few things. The company announced that they're looking to have a nice chunk of cash. And another thing, on the 15th, some traders realized that there were some huge trades or huge positions, long positions were built in AT&T, and they came out with the opinion that if AT&T is doing something like that, that means something or somebody knows something. Now, in my opinion, whatever they say, it's good. I listen to it and I kind of pay attention, but I look into things a little bit differently. On the selling market, AT&T moved higher. See, we opened with the gap on Thursday and Friday. We continue when the market really sold. So definitely something is happening. We might be expecting some either announcements or who knows, maybe even some takeovers. I have no idea what's happening, but definitely something they call relative strength is important on the selling market. When things went down tremendously on Friday, AT&T went up. So definitely we'll be watching this week for some developments in AT&T. Another one is Teva Pharmaceuticals. You know, I mention it almost every week. And just for new people to bring it back, that I start talking about it here around 7:20, 7:30 back in June, and then July again. This stock has a tendency of moving between $7 and $11, and then we spoke about it right here with the possibility of doing the same thing. And the stock so far has been working very nicely. Now, we closed at 10.56. We could be retesting around 11, but if you take a look at the monthly chart, we spoke about it. There is a possibility that at some point we'll break out of this a long period of stagnation in a way, or accumulation, or whatever is happening here. Just to give you an idea, that back in 2015, stock was at $72. So it's a good company. They produce generic pharmaceutical, and we might see actually at some point breaking out. This again, on the falling market, on the choppy market, the stock had a healthy move up, consolidation, and we're starting a second leg to the upside. Definitely worth watching. All right, now I'm going to bring the MT5 now. I just want to bring the stock that just reported, similar to Oracle, but Oracle had kind of mixed earnings. If you remember, the stock gapped down on the earnings, and slowly we're trying to rebuild, but has a hard time. But the same thing happened. Not the same thing, but the stock Adobe stock went down when they came up with not only great earnings but also great projections, and the stock went down. So just telling us that in the tech sector, something is really shaky there. Even in the great news, things are selling. So definitely we'll try to watch Adobe this week. Now, if we're already in MT5, I just want to bring an instrument that I think I mentioned a few times. I want to mention it again. That's the ETF called SQQQ. And if you see the explanation, is a ProShares Ultra Short QQQ. You know, there's a ETF that's just QQQ, that trading represents NASDAQ. And this one goes the opposite way. So when the NASDAQ is selling, the SQQQ, this ETF, is moving higher. And take a look, we are above 50 moving average again. So it looks like we're building up for possible move. And again, if that threat of the market that we just discussed, the three things that threatening the markets in general are going to come out in a real way. So if you see crash in the market that includes NASDAQ, this instrument could actually have a nice run to the upside. So definitely worth watching the SQQQs. All right. NVIDIA, also the champion of the AI, so far is having a hard time. We did have a nice run. I think we hit 502 back at the end of August. And as of now, we are trading below 50 moving average. The stock went down with the market on Friday. Let's take a quick look at banks. As we mentioned banks last week. Banks, this is Bank of America. They tried to bounce, but nothing significant. Goldman Sachs had a nice run. It bounced nicely from these recent lows from around 317 to 344, and Friday went down a little bit. JP Morgan is struggling with the previous resistance around 148. Citigroup also had a nice run, 3 consecutive days with a gap up. I guess that sell-off triggered some buying a rush over here. Let's see how this week will be affecting the banks. Of course, again, the Fed's decision definitely will be affecting stocks, banks definitely, and other instruments. So that's as far as stocks. Let's take a look at Tesla just really quick. Tesla is trading around 275. It hit the level, and it looks like we're facing the resistance there around 275, 276. It also went down with the market, not significantly, so it really shows some strength. If you remember, the indices erased the previous day's run, some actually 2 days, and Tesla is holding. So if the market turns around and moves higher, Tesla could be running and retesting the next resistance, and that's around $299, $300. All right. Okay, so that's as far as stocks. We'll definitely watch the upcoming week, especially the Fed's decision in the press conference. Let's move to commodities. We'll start with oil, and that's what I mentioned in the beginning when I mentioned Chinese market. Oil has been super strong, and just to remind you and mention it to new people, it's all to do with the fear of shortage of supply. According to statistics, we're the 20-year low on the production. So we are short 3 million barrels a day, and that's the lowest level in the past 20 years, according to analysts. So that creates a lot of fear as we also entering fall and the winter following. As far as demand, I'm not sure that we have any great news on that side, as China is struggling, and also other parts of the world as well, and that includes possible recession. I don't know. I'm confused myself with that recession. They say we are, we aren't. Soft landing, hard landing. I'm not sure, but all this move to the upside, it has to do with supply or fear of lack of supply. So we're at 91, and if you look higher here, I guess the next level, we were around 93.29. That was back in October of last year. So we are at the high level for this year, definitely the highest, and we are continuing. We had a little bit of a fight here around 86, 87, and since then we're really flying. So we'll be watching oil. Natural gas, on the other hand, it's not really rushing to run. It had a nice move, as we mentioned, the 260 level. The moment we came above it again, we had a nice run. We hit past week the high of 282, and we are below 50 moving average again. So we might be retesting that 260 again. And just on the big picture, as we mentioned, in order for natural gas to have that run that some traders are expecting, we need to break above 3 and really start building some nice support there. Otherwise, as you could see, it's a very long accumulation, something that I mentioned a lot. and after a long accumulation, pretty much in the same range, we are expecting a move. Now, it could be definitely a move downstairs as well. The expectations to the upside as far as the season, again, similar to oil, we're entering fall and winter following, so demand could be higher. But natural gas is having a hard time to moving. It's really stuck in this very tight range between $2.15 and $3, and in the past weeks it's almost flat line around 260, as you could see here. So that's as far as natural gas. Gold on the daily chart, Friday had a nice move on gold to the upside. It looks like it triggered that function of safe haven as the market was selling. Gold had a nice gain over here. We did touch the 50 moving average over here, and we closed lower though, so we'll be watching this week. And again, the Fed's decision will be affecting equities, US dollar, gold, so definitely we'll be watching what's happening in that area. Silver, let me take a look at silver. Where are you? Here we go. Silver also had a nice move. On Thursday, we almost touched the previous support here around 22.22, and Friday we had a nice bounce to the upside. So similar to gold, they moved to the upside after the sell-off. So some traders are looking into it on a possible reversal to the upside on silver market. Okay, and let's take a look at things that we discuss almost every week, the wheat and corn. Wheat, it looks like it's holding this 586 level, the previous support. We did have move below and retesting this low over here from May 31st, but we bounced really the same day and we continued higher. So we closed at 603.50. Nice recovery, but we're still in this range between 586 and 621. We are in the middle, right in the middle of that range. Corn was not that lucky this week. We are sitting in this tight channel as well between 473 and 497. It didn't have the run to the upside. It is trying to retest this support around 473. Let's see if corn will catch up this week with the move up on wheat, or the other way around, the wheat will sell off following the corn. Again, fundamentally, it's a lot to do with supply and the situation in Ukraine, with the grain deal and ability of Ukraine to ship wheat to other countries, with Russia being in control and so on. It's very confusing and very unfortunate, but hopefully we'll see some good news from that part of the world. Okay, so that's as far as commodities. Let's move to Forex. We'll start with dollar index, which has been super strong. We are holding to that, almost to that 105. We had a nice move on Thursday, the high of 105.08, and Friday we closed a little bit lower than the open, but we are holding to that almost 105. We had the closing on Friday 104.71. Again, we're approaching the Fed's decision, so dollar is acting very strong into it. Now, let's take a look at majors. As I mentioned to you, there was an interest rate decision from European Central Bank, and they did increase by 0.25%. I believe now it's a 4% interest rate, but euro fell. So we are trading currently at 106.61. That was the closing on Friday. 1 second. High was 106.87. We closed 106.62. Now pound, we're approaching that interest rate decision. Pound's been weak. We broke through the 200 moving average here as the dollar continued to having strength, and we are expecting that increase in interest rate. Let's see what pound is doing after that. USD Swiss franc, as we mentioned, is going to be decision also from Bank of Switzerland. We are having a very nice steady recovery from the lows of July with some retests, and we are on the way possibly to hit the 200 moving average, which is also about the same level as the previous resistance at around 0.8995, so 0.90 almost. Let's see if we hit that level, and let's see also how the instrument acts around that level. Now, Japanese yen, definitely worth watching. As I said, there's also at the end of the week decision from Bank of Japan. It looks like we're having a resistance here. We're retesting it. We couldn't break it in the 4 consecutive days in the beginning of September. Then we had a little bit of a pullback, and we're back there again, trying to fight that 147.70 level, around that. So definitely we'll be watching the Japanese yen, and definitely we'll be watching Japanese yen against the other currencies. And again, I have to bring this up. The Swiss franc, Japanese yen, both of them are having interest rate decision this week. And as you could see here, the instrument is retesting support here, and we are making a lower highs, which is very significant. So again, it could be my wishful thinking, but we might see that instrument finally breaking down. Just want to show you a big picture and remind you about this level here, 159.88, this green line here, and that's the level from 1979. So if we get that Bank of Japan decision, we might see, the favorable decision towards the yen, we might see a drop in this instrument. But as of now, again, not to be excited or not to plan anything, but technically speaking, we are making lower highs, and we are sitting on this 50 moving average. So far, we haven't closed below it, so we'll be definitely watching that. Okay, so that's as far as Forex. You know what? Let's take a look at a few pairs. Definitely at the ZAR. Let's bring it up. ZAR has been retesting this 1915 level. We had a triple top, which couldn't close higher. And here, it looks like we're trying to get to that level again. So let's see how this week plays for USD ZAR. And the instrument that I brought a few weeks back, USD Hungarian forint, is really holding into this 361. If you remember, we spoke about this level somewhere around here, 330, 340. And I mentioned that fundamentally that the government of Hungary was not so supportive towards the Ukraine receiving the monetary assistance. And if you remember, I mentioned that. So it worked out nicely. Of course, the major reason here, the strength of the dollar, but also the weakness of Hungarian forint probably played the role as well. In any event, we did make higher highs and higher lows, and we kind of retesting, or we pretty much glued into this level between 359, 361. If we do break about it and start closing here, that will be a really a close retest of it, and we might actually see continuation to the upside and retesting the trend line. So that's as far as USD Hungarian forint. And let's take a look at our Bitcoin. What is it doing? We did retest the 25,000. We recovered nicely. We're trading around 26.5. One thing that catches my attention, if you remember, I mentioned in few instruments that the dead cross when the 50 moving average crossing below 200, analysts take it as a sell signal. So something to pay attention. All right, so that's it pretty much with our analysis. Just want to mention a few things that we spoke about on the horizon this week. We have Fed's decision, which is the highlight of the week. The expectation is no increase. We have also interest rate decision from Bank of England, Bank of Japan, and Bank of Switzerland. And as I mentioned, the three things that kind of threatening the market, and that's in October, the repayment of the loans, the automakers on strike that affects American automakers in Detroit area, and the third one is a possible or probable or whatever you want to name it, shutdown of the U.S. government by October 1st if they don't reach that agreement by September 30th. Okay, I want to wish everyone a successful week. It's going to be a lot of events, a lot of moves. Make sure you prepare yourself. Make sure you are aware of your risks, manage your risk, manage your funds, and all the best. Take care.